Okay, welcome back. So this is the second part of the fourth module, which is creating basic model elements. What we did in the first part of this module in the previous video was to create the walls, the floors, and the foundations for our little apartment project, the example of which we've got here. And so this is what we're modeling off of and what we're trying to replicate in our Revit model. And now we're going to be looking at adding the stairs that is going to be running from the ground floor to the first level floor. So if you've completed the previous modules, then you should have a similar model as to what I've got. You might have used different wall types, and you might have used some different parameters for your floor depths and foundation depths and all of that, and that's okay. We're not too worried about the 100% accuracy of this model, since these dimensions are probably not as accurate either. It's a reference, and we are here to understand how the Revit system works and how we can model things using the Revit components. So it's good practice to learn to model as accurately as possible, but with the information available to us, we are sometimes having to resort to making a best guess. Anyway, so we've created the section view also in the previous session of this modules, where we can see those walls and how they tie into the floors, and everything looks nice and tidy. So next we want to create a staircase. Now, staircases can be quite simple in Revit. This particular scenario or setup we've got here is not as simple, however. But we're going to do it, and it's not rocket science either. So I'm going to show you how we create the staircase. It's a good exercise because it's going to show you how to deal with staircases when they're not as straightforward as we would like them to be. Now, just to start off with, I'm going to show you what a simple, straightforward staircase would look like. So from the architecture ribbon, if I choose stair, all I need to do is select my base level and my top level. I can specify the actual tread depth that I want, and I can specify the number of risers that I ideally would like. And all I need to do is click a start point and click an end point. And look, it's going to create this stair line until it reaches the next level. As easy as that. It does that complete, and I'm going to hit enter here so you can see what happened. It's going to do that complete with railings and all the bells and whistles that we don't necessarily need for this model, but it's created that. Look at that. We've got a staircase. So easy, so simple. Okay, but it's not going to work because in this model, we are accessing the staircase from here. So if our stairs run all the way to this wall, it means that you're going to run into a wall and you'll have to kind of duck and crouch to get out here, which is not something we want to do. So we're going to model this accurately and properly. To do that, we can't use the component-based stairs. So when we created the staircase, we used the stair tool, and we used the component-based stairs, which are these ones here. So we can do straight, spiral, L-shaped, etc. But what we need to do is we're going to create a staircase by first specifying the correct width. Excuse me. Then we're going to be using some of the tools to create a sketch-based staircase system. All right, and that's going to allow us to create these kind of angled stairs that we want in here, steps that we want in here to enter from the bottom and also to exit at the top. Okay, so first things first, let's just quickly exit the command there, and let's just get a inner dimension here of what we have got to work with. So I forgot to mention this. While I'm placing the dimensions, notice when I use the dimensioning tool. So what I did was I went here to aligned dimensions from the annotate tab. So from annotate, I select aligned. And when I click or move my cursor, it snaps to the center of the wall. I don't want that. I want the inside of the wall, but it doesn't want to select that. So what you do is you press the tab button on your keyboard, and you'll see as you press tab, it's going to cycle through various options that you can select from. In this case, I want that inside, and I'm going to press tab again until it highlights the inside there, and then I can click and place my dimension. Okay, right. So we've got 940 millimeters here to work with, so our staircase width needs to comply with that. Sorry. Now when I click here on edit type, so what I did was I clicked on the stair tool, and before I start drawing, I click on edit type. And from here, you can see we've got a width, and we said 940 is the width that we want. So if I hit apply and OK, that's going to set our stair width. Excuse me for that. Right, was there anything else we wanted to set up here? Let me just see quickly. So we've got run landing. That should be all fine. Okay, so we've got that. All right, now I'm going to start by just drawing in the staircase, because yes, we don't want to, and I want to do this from the center. So you see that when I move my cursor, it gives me a center snap point of that line, and I'm going to draw it all the way to the top. Now, yes, we said we don't want to run all the way down into this wall because that's not how staircases work. But before we can start creating our sketch-based component, I'm first going to create a normal staircase. And when that's done, I'm going to convert it to a sketch-based staircase. So I'm going to click OK. I'm going to exit the command. I'm going to select this again, and I'm going to go Edit Stairs. And from here, I want to convert that. So I'm going to select this again, and you'll see when the staircase is selected, while in the modify stair command, I can convert this now to a sketch-based staircase. It's just telling me things are going to happen when I do that. Don't worry, that's fine. We want that to happen. All right. Again, I'm going to select this, and now I'm going to choose Edit Sketch. Okay, so that brings us into yet another level or state of working. Now, these green lines are the sides of the staircase. So first things first, I want that to sit on the inside. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to use the move tool here, and I'm going to very carefully make sure I place that on the inside of that wall. All right. The same thing's going to happen here. I'm going to move this line to the inside, not there. It should be this line to there. Also, we know from this picture that we've got the entry there. So we're not going to have this step here. We're not going to have this step, and we probably won't have this step here either. Okay, so these are the treads. Okay, I need to trim these back, of course. We'll do that in a minute. Then I'm going to take this line. I'm going to say, let's come back to this edge. All right. We're going to trim these back. And we're going to do the same here at the top. Okay, we're not going to worry about these steps because we're probably going to remove them because we want to turn in here at the top as well. All right, now that we've got this done, we're going to continue to create the boundary. So we're going to say, okay, this staircase actually is going to run down to here. Also, it's going to come out on this side to that end. We're then going to go to risers, and we're going to say, let's create a riser that splits here, right? Just like we see there. Oh, I see it. Actually, there's 1, 2, 3 steps. Okay, so this actually is going to sit somewhere here. And we're going to have another riser that sits here. Okay. And then finally, there's going to be a riser at the end. I see we already have one. No, we don't. Okay, so we need a riser here at the end. We're going to draw that in. Sorry, that's not a riser. I used the wrong tool here. Make sure you select riser. You'll see that they change in color, so they need to be white. Let me create one there. And now finally we need to change the stair path. So this path has to go to the center here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new stair path from this center where it intersects this line. And then I'm going to select this one. First I deselect everything, of course, and then I'm going to draw that back. Okay, now we've got a staircase running up here. We're going to have a problem with these treads going outside, these risers going outside of the or the boundary here. It's going to complain about that, and I still need to fix it up. So for now, what I'll do is I'll just quickly trim these back, and then we're going to switch to the second level and we'll fix the top part of the stairs. So for now, we're just going to do this. Okay. And finally this one, and we should be good to go. Before we close this, just again, so that you understand, when we create the sketch-based stairs, the green lines represent the outside edges. Then we've got the threads, making sure that they always start and end with the threads. And then we've got the blue line indicating the stair path that we are following. Now, when I hit OK and accept again, we have a staircase. Voila. So if we look at that in 3D, that's what we see. I actually don't need these railings, so I'm just going to select them and delete them. And we've got our staircase running up there. How nice is that? Okay, so that's almost perfect, but we need the stairs to also spiral up here at the top, as we've got in these drawings here, in this model view here. Okay, so we're going to quickly set that up. Let's go to level 1. Here we can see our staircase, and we can see there's the landing. Here's our floor slab that we drew in earlier. We can probably bring these lines back a little bit since we are stepping up to the top here. Or what we can do is we can actually bring that into here. And I think that's what we'll do, just for the sake of time, is we'll bring our slab edge to there, because we know the stairs land here, right? And if we say accept, it's gonna bring this back, and we should be reaching the landing right there, which is absolutely perfect. So we've got our stairs coming up here, reaching that edge, and it's coming in. Okay, notice we've got these stringers running down and it's intersecting here with the floor. We can remove the inner stringer. We don't need it. That'll probably go into the wall, or the stringer could sit inside of the wall. So if we really wanted to, we can start removing those as well from the model. For now, I'm just going to leave them. We'll go into more details on stair model and creating more complicated stair systems in future modules. But for now, this is our staircase. So we're getting from the bottom to the top, and we can go from the top back to the bottom. So that's all set up for us. Now, we probably want to draw in a bit of a wall here so someone doesn't fall down the stairs. So if we wanted to do that, just to show you how that would work, is we'd create a wall. And it either can or maybe doesn't have to go all the way to the top. So if we wanted something that only goes about halfway up, we can say that we want to make this a top offset minus maybe a meter. So we can then draw this in from this point to this point here. And if we look at that in 3D, then that's what you would see, right? If we wanted to make this even lower, again, we can go down here and we can make that 1 to 50 perhaps. And then we've got that wall there. Great. Okay, so now that we've got that in, let's look at the next part. So we have created our walls, we have created the floors, we have created the stairs. The next part is let's start adding some windows and doors to the model. So if we look at our drawing here, we can see that we've got an entrance door there, we've got a sliding door over here, and we've got a door to that toilet over there. So we're going to start by creating those. So from the architecture ribbon, I'm going to select door. These are loadable families. So far, we've been working with system and system families. Now we're going to work with loadable families. In other words, things that we can load from an external source and place them in the model. And these will be hosted by the wall. So remember earlier we spoke about components that can host other elements. For doors and windows, this is the case. So we're going to use this 910 millimeter door. And you'll see as I move my cursor left or right, it's going to flip direction based on where I want to place it on the wall. So if I keep it to the inner side, it's going to flip the direction and show me where it's going to place that door. When I click it, it's going to automatically adjust the finishing and everything and place it really nicely and create that detail for me. Okay, so we've got one there. This is the staircase at the top running through, but we have this bathroom at the bottom. So we've got a door, excuse me, sitting over here, opening towards the outside. So we want to do that again, but this time, oh, this is an internal door actually. I probably shouldn't have used it over there, but doesn't matter. Okay. All right, so we've got that door placed. And next we want to create another door, but this time we want a sliding door, which is not here in my list. So I'm going to load this from my family components. So we click on load. We're going to go to the New Zealand library. We'll go to components, and then we'll look at doors and windows, and we want doors. So here we've got exterior doors. That's not quite a sliding door. So if we want to look at sliding doors, these are all interior. So we don't really have exterior sliding doors. That's the problem with some of these libraries. They're not always as complete as you would want them to be. But if we look at the Australian one, it looks like it's got a bit more, you see. So it's got something closer to what we want, the 3-panel sliding door. That looks like the one. So if we open that and we move that here, to our model. We want this to be in the center. So can you see there from the temporary dimensions, it says 1275.0 and 1275.0. So yes, that's exactly where I want it. You see, so when I click, it then creates that sliding door. I'm going to press escape twice, and that is created. By the way, if you accidentally placed this in the wrong location and you wanted that to be centered exactly, there's a way to do that. We can go to annotate here. We can choose aligned, and then we can choose the center line there. We can find the center line here, and we can find the center line there. And when I place this, you see it says EQ with a strike through, which means it's not equal. If I click on EQ and I lock this position, I lock that position, it means it will always adjust this to the center position between those 2 points. And look at that. Beautiful. Okay. So we've got all the doors in the bottom level set up. Let's place the windows. So we can see we've got a window there, we've got a window there, and that's it. No window for the toilet. Interesting. Okay, that's fine. So let's do that. So let's go to architecture and let's click on window. We've got a fairly large window sitting here, which I probably don't have in my library. So I'm going to load a family. Again, we can go to the New Zealand families, or we can go straight here to the Australian ones, which probably is a little bit more complete. And we're looking for a fairly large window. It looks like this could be what we're looking for. Let's open that up. You see we can now select which ones we want to import. So it's got different sizes. So this will be the width. And you can see those are quite big. So that does look like a big window that we want to bring in. So I'm going to click this one. And then just for consistency, we can see the height also. It's a massive window. Actually, it's maybe too big. So let's rather bring in this one. And then for upstairs, for the smaller windows, we can probably bring in this one and this one. I'm holding the control button down to select multiple rows. And when I bring this in, you're going to notice immediately that it's going to, of course, change. And now from my drop-down list, from the casement one, I've got those 3 that I've imported. So I want this big boy over here. I'm going to select, where was that exactly? So that sits sort of here. I think that's good enough. Okay, so we've got that window there. And then we've got a fairly large window here also at the kitchen area. Okay, we'll place that one over there. And that's all. We've only got 2 windows. Okay, then at the top, we've got bedroom windows here, and we've got another large window over there, and we've got a small one for the toilet. Okay, so we are going to choose this one, the smaller one. We're going to place it over here. Another one here in the center. And then we've got a large one again in this bedroom. So I'm going to choose the bigger one. Let's say there. Okay. Again, we can play around with the parameters, and we can add annotation dimensions here to place them centrally. a bit better if we wish to do so. So we can say equalize that, lock it in, lock it in. And we can do the same for these other windows. For the sake of time, I'm not going to do that now. Let's just place this window over here by the toilet. So again, I'm going to go to architecture, window. This time we want the small window that we see here. It's probably this one. And we're going to place that one here. I think I switched that around. So I'm just going to select it and click the switch button. You see how that works? Okay, let's look at that in 3D and we can see our windows, our doors. This thing is way too high up there, so we want to change that sill height to maybe something like 500 millimeters. That's still too high, so it's probably a bit lower. That looks better. Same thing here. I'm selecting both of them at the same time. The way I'm doing that is I'm clicking and then I'm holding control, left control, and I'm clicking again to add to that selection. Can you see these windows don't line up and it looks a bit funny? So if we go to level 0 here, we can do the same thing. We can find the center between those grid lines and we can line them up. I know that we selected this grid, this one, and this one to line up the top one. So if I do the same here, they should line up when I look at them in my 3D view. So there they are. Okay, nicely lined up for us. You see? Okay. All right, so that is how we place windows and doors. Now I'm going to show you how to place furniture in the model, and then it's going to be your turn to start placing all of the furniture in the model as you see them there. I'm going to place one toilet and maybe the dining room table for you, and then you can do the rest. So let's start with that. So from the architecture ribbon, I'm going to click on the component button, and then I'm going to load a family. So in our categories, I'm still on the Australian one. We can switch back to the New Zealand library. It doesn't really matter. But what I'm looking for is the plumbing fixtures. So let's just see where we're going to find toilets here. I'm not too familiar with the Australian one. If I don't find it here, I'm going to go back to the New Zealand one. Ah, here we are. Water closet. So here we've got a toilet. Here we've got a toilet. Nice. That's exactly what we want. So I'm going to select the toilet and then I'm going to place that. Notice the orientation is wrong, but if I press the space bar, it rotates that for me. See, so space bar rotates the position before I click and place it in the model. Then when I click and place, it is positioned. I press escape twice to exit the command. And if I need to, I can go back here and I can select it, click on the move button and move this around a little bit if it is necessary. Again, I'm going to click on that. I'm going to choose load family. We can place the hand wash basin there, or if we want to get straight into the furniture, because I'm going to leave that for you to do, we can go to furniture. And we said we're going to place the dining room table there. So we'll go to tables and we'll see if we can find a nice one. No, okay, but we can use this one. It doesn't have chairs, but we don't worry too much about that because we're going to place the chairs. So we're going to create this, let's say here. Okay, and then we're going to go back to component. I'm going to go to load model and we're going to find some chairs. So show us seating. No. None of these really what I want. So if I go to the New Zealand one, and they sort them a bit differently. So if I go to components, here we want to go to furniture and appliances, furniture and fittings, and chair. Perfect. So if we load this chair, we can place one here. You see it kind of gives me that same projection in the horizontal space. Space bar to place this again, space bar to rotate this. We place this one here. You can do this better than me if you're not as much in a hurry as I am. But there we go. So we've placed a toilet, we've placed a table, we've placed some chairs. If we look at that in 3D, it's really starting to look like something. Look at that. Okay, so now it's up to you to continue to place the furniture, place the hand wash basin, create the little couches there, create a little dining table there or living room table, create the stovetop counter. I mean the stovetop, place the stove, create the zinc, the zinc, and then place the beds. And when you're done, you should have a model that looks something similar to this. There we go. So this is my model that I set up earlier. Oops, that's not the correct one. Let's go back here and let me select the 3D view for this model. So if we do the same thing, override the graphics by category, and we set this to something more transparent, then you can see we've got hand wash basins, we've got even a shower component placed there. There's a toilet. We've got the beds. You can see that I've created the stove. I've even modeled the countertop here, and we've got the zinc placed there as well. So everything in place, and the couches, although these are facing backwards. Okay, so that is an example of what it should look like. On this one, in this version, I also fixed the stairs to actually twist the right way around, but you can play around with that if you like. But those are the basic principles. So this is how you create the components, right? There's one thing more that I could mention, and how to model that countertop in the kitchen, because that can be tricky. There's different opinions on how that is done. Some people use the floor component to model them. That is actually wrong, and that creates, erroneous data downstream. So I'm going to show you how to do that very quickly, correctly. So when we place components, we can load a family from an external source. But if we click on the drop down, we can actually model a component right in place. But we have to select a category. Usually we can choose furniture or whatever. For this particular one, we're going to choose furniture because it is actually a furniture item. And we're going to call this one kitchen countertop. Provide accurate names for your components, because that's going to be handy downstream for anybody else who has to be working with your models. All right, we're going to choose extrusion here. And then I'm going to start drawing in the geometry. So what I did there was I just started around about here, I think it was, and I took this out. After I placed the zinc and the stove and everything, I knew exactly how much it needed to be, so I can't remember what it was, so I'll just kind of guess now. All you do is you draw the geometry around here, you exit the command, you tell it where the extrusion is going to start and where it's going to end. And I think I said the extrusion start was 750 millimeters above level 0, and then it ended at 800. All right, meaning that it's going to be 50 millimeters thick, starting 700 millimeters above the ground. And sorry, this is the wrong model. Let me go back to this model, which means it's going to sit right there. Okay, so that is how I modeled that countertop. Notice it's kind of interfering with my window here, which is probably not what would be the case. So if I just click on finish model, because I didn't, if I change this window type perhaps to something a little bit smaller, that's not the one, maybe something like that, and we move that sill height, that's probably going to be better. Maybe even a bit higher. That's probably more in line with what we would want to do. Okay, but I think that gives you a good idea of how this works and how we set this up. One thing that I did do in my complete model is when I modeled, and I'm just going to hide this wall in the view so I can see what's going on. So all I did was I selected the wall, right click, and I choose hide in view elements. For this one, so that my zinc doesn't intersect with the countertop that I modeled here, is I actually modeled a void, right? So I created this external geometry around, and then if I click here on edit in place, and I select this void and I choose edit the extrusion, you can see that I created the external lines, and then where that zinc sits on, on this level here, I keep selecting the wrong thing. I just made sure that I created another internal closed loop to create that sketch. So when it extrudes this, it knows that then when there is a closed loop inside of an outer closed loop boundary, it's going to automatically create a void there for me. So that's all I did. And because I created that using the edges of that zinc, it nicely tidied that up there. So you can actually see it ties in really well with the geometry around it. Okay, so that's what you see there. And that is it. So that concludes this module. This was part 2. I hope you find that useful, and I'll see you in the next module. Thank you. Talk soon. Bye.